Ladies, you'll end up shopping for your guy's deodorant, right? So try Degree's Original Cool Rush. You see, last year, Degree changed the formula, and men were mad. One guy even started a petition. So Degree admitted they messed up and brought the Original Cool Rush scent back. It's clean, crisp, and actually smells like someone you want to cuddle. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So toss one in your cart and find out why it's the best-selling men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory.
The Other Side of Midnight.
77 WABC.
Local Spotlight.
Good morrow, everyone. This is The Other Side of Midnight on 77 WABC. I'm Frank Morano. Well, New York is about to make history, and not for a very good reason. On September 10th, the New York State Court of Appeals, the highest state court that we have, refused to hear Cartwright versus Kennedy. This is the case in which the lower state courts had ruled that Kennedy can't be on the ballot because he didn't really live at the address he listed on his declaration of candidacy. Now, Kennedy does have a case in federal court in New York, but if he doesn't win that, or at least doesn't win it in time, New York will be the only state in the entire country, think about this, the only state in the entire country with only two presidential candidates' names on the ballot this year. This is something that the New York newspapers haven't mentioned. I know Richard Winger and Ballot Access News has mentioned it. No one else has. And I find this absolutely crazy. We have never had only two presidential candidates on the ballot in my entire lifetime. In fact, I don't know that there's a New Yorker alive that has ever seen only two presidential candidates on the ballot. Putting aside Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who I will remind you submitted more signatures to get on the ballot in New York than any candidate in the history of New York State, and yet they're claiming that because he doesn't live in New York, he can't be on the ballot. It's insane. But look, he's not necessarily the issue here because he's suspended his campaign and he's urging people to vote for Donald Trump. This is an indication that New York's ballot laws are way too stringent. Do you remember when people were protesting Georgia? They even moved the All-Star game out of Atlanta because they said that state's voting laws were too restrictive. Well, we would love to have voting laws like Georgia does. This is insane. And this is all thanks to a law that Andrew Cuomo signed, making it virtually impossible for independent candidates to qualify for the ballot and for third-party candidates to qualify for the ballot for governor or president. This is absolutely outrageous. And if this isn't an indicator that the state legislature needs to fix this horrible Cuomo law, I don't know what is. But it's official. At least for now, New York will have less voter choice in our state than any other state in the country. Think about that. Jill Stein wanted to get on the ballot here. The Libertarians wanted to get on the ballot here. Cornel West wanted to get on the ballot here. Randall Terry wanted to get on the ballot here. And yet New York's laws are so restrictive, none of them could even qualify in spite of getting tens of thousands of signatures submitted. What a joke.
Beam me up.
To be continued.
Are we still on the trail? Is this pack getting heavier? More switchbacks? Why am I doing this?
At REI Co-op, we believe there are places within ourselves.
Just a little further. You got this.
That we find only outside.
Wow. Look at the stars. This is incredible.
We have the gear, inspiration, and advice to help you get there. REI Co-op. Visit rei.com.
The Other Side of Midnight.
77 WABC.
Local Spotlight.
Good morrow, everyone. This is The Other Side of Midnight on 77 WABC. I'm Frank Morano. I am honored to be on 77 WABC with such an incredible lineup of colleagues. As far as I'm concerned, this is the best lineup in all of broadcasting. And that is going to be on full display today because the New York State Broadcasters Association is having their Excellence in Broadcasting Awards. And WABC WABC won 5 awards. This is really impressive, and we cleaned up last year, too. I happened to win one last year. I didn't win one this year. My friend Curtis Lewa won for Best Use of Digital. Noam Laden won for Best Newscast. James Golden won for Best Commentary. And Back the Blue won for Best Live on Scene. And Columbus Day Parade was the winner for Best Live and Local Coverage. All really impressive, and honestly, the envy of every other AM radio station in New York State, because this is a big deal, these Excellence in Broadcasting Awards. I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to be there, not only because it's a great opportunity to celebrate my colleagues, but because this event typically has an open bar, which I took full advantage of last year. But Rachel is in Washington, D.C., so I would have nobody to take my son to school and pick him up. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be there. But I will be there very much in spirit. Congratulations to Curtis, Noam, James Golden, and everybody else that was a big winner this year. Speaking of all of my colleagues, if you want to get any new WABC swag, especially the throwback clothing, which is my favorite, but also some great Other Side of Midnight clothing, you can go to WABCRadiostore.com. There's a ton of cool stuff on there, including some relatively new merchandise from yours truly, the Frankster. WABCRadiostore.com. And if you do get anything that's wearable, a shirt, a hat, or anything like that, do as our friend Joe from Ronkonkoma does. Put the shirt on, put the hat on, take a photo, share it on social media, because we want to get more people in the habit of promoting our show and showing the others that, look, we're a fraternity of people that listen overnights, that work overnights, that are enjoying the show overnights. And when you see a hat or a shirt emblazoned with the Other Side of Midnight, you know you've met a fellow traveler. So that's WABCRadiostore.com. If you want to use the promo code Frank15, you will save 15% off. So really, it's win-win. You get a great product at a great price. WABCRadiostore.com, keyword Frank15.
Beam me up!
To be continued.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
The Other Side of Midnight.
77 WABC.
Local Spotlight.
Well, it's clear this corruption scandal surrounding the Adams administration isn't going anywhere. And I read a column which I think really hits the nail on the head. And it was written by Tom Allen, the founder and publisher of City and State, and somebody that's a friend of mine. I don't know if he's been on this show, but he's been on other incarnations of shows that I've done. And his recent column hits the nail on the head, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to the ethical challenges Mayor Eric Adams is facing. With federal prosecutors investigating whether the relatives of some of Adams' top aides have been trying to cash in on their connections, the mayor has an urgent choice to make. He can either act decisively now or risk allowing the appearance and maybe even the reality of corruption to envelop his administration. As Allen notes, this isn't just a political problem, it's a question of integrity and leadership. In his column, Allen points out two key figures at the center of these scandals: James Caban and Terrence Banks. Caban, the twin brother of NYPD Commissioner Edward Caban, has been accused of playing the role of a fixer in the NYPD, allegedly working with corrupt officers to help businesses with multiple violations make their problems disappear for a fee, of course. Terrence Banks, brother of Deputy Mayor Philip Banks and Schools Chancellor David Banks, who runs a consulting firm with clients who have business before city agencies run by his brothers. Despite this clear conflict of interest, Banks isn't even a registered lobbyist. Allen makes it clear that while both Edward Caban and David Banks have admirable records, the actions of their brothers are jeopardizing the credibility of this administration. And the mayor himself has repeatedly found himself in hot water because of what can only be described as poor judgment when it comes to hiring and management. The debacle with former Buildings Commissioner Eric Ulrich, who's a friend of mine, but he's now on trial for various ethical violations, is a prime example of this pattern of sloppy decision-making. As Alan suggests rightly, Adams still has time to turn things around, but that window is closing fast. With a mayoral primary less than 10 months away, the mayor needs to act swiftly and decisively to clean up his administration. Voters aren't going to tolerate the perception that City Hall is for sale or that the mayor is turning a blind eye to the unethical actions of those close to him. New Yorkers have seen this play out before, most famously in the scandals that plagued the final years of Ed Koch's administration, chronicled in the book City for Sale. The comparison to that era is apt, and it's a warning that Adams would be wise to heed. The time for action is now, before law enforcement hands down multiple indictments. If Adams is serious about leading this city, he needs to make it clear that corruption won't be tolerated, not in City Hall, not in the NYPD, and certainly not in his administration.
Beam me up!
To be continued.
This episode is brought to you by Factor. Optimize your nutrition this year with Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal service. Factor's fresh, never-frozen meals are dietitian-approved, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from 40 weekly options across 8 dietary preferences, like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Eat smarter at factormeals.com/listen50 and use code listen50 for 50% off, plus free shipping on your first box. Factormeals.com/listen50. Code listen50. Terms and conditions apply.
The Other Side of Midnight.
77 WABC.
Local Spotlight.
It's hard to have any sympathy for the Democrats in New York State who are now worried that their constitutional amendment on abortion could end up hurting their candidates in swing districts. How's that for a reversal of what we've seen in New York and around the country? They brought this on themselves. Let's not forget there was never any real threat to abortion rights in New York. This is one of the most pro-abortion rights states in the country. So why put this amendment on the ballot? Simple. They wanted to exploit the issue to help their down-ballot candidates. This wasn't about protecting rights. It was about politics. They hoped that by putting abortion front and center, they could motivate their base and win tight races. But now, it looks like the move might backfire, and they've got no one to blame but themselves. Not only did they try to manipulate the system, but they didn't even follow proper procedure. This amendment was initially thrown off the ballot for not meeting the legal requirements, but instead of accepting that, the Democrats ran to their hand-picked judges at the New York State Court of Appeals, who predictably put it back on the ballot. And now, surprise, surprise, the same issue they thought would be a slam dunk is blowing up in their faces. Conservatives have organized a strong campaign against the amendment using its vague and expansive language, which includes provisions on LGBTQ plus rights and other areas, to chip away at voter support. This wasn't just about abortion. They added all kinds of other unnecessary elements, and now they're paying the price. Democrats assumed this would be a winning issue like it was in other states, but New York isn't Kansas or Kentucky. The voters here are paying attention, and they don't like to be played. Internal polling shows that in key battleground districts, this amendment is actually eroding support for Democratic candidates. And guess what? It's all happening because they overreached. So now, Democratic consultants are scrambling, trying to sound the alarm. But the damage might already be done. If this ends up costing them seats in the House or the state Senate or the state Assembly, it's nothing but karma as far as I'm concerned. They thought they could manipulate the voters with this amendment, but it's coming back to bite them. Maybe next time they'll think twice before trying to play games with the state constitution for political gain. I'll remind folks that in 2017, I, along with Bill Samuels and several others, was one of the leading advocates in favor of a constitutional convention in New York. And these very same people that put this question on the ballot were the people saying you should vote no. New Yorkers listen to them, and they did vote no. Who knows how things would have turned out if they'd voted yes.
Beam me up.
To be continued.